Sergeant Mark Talon stepped out of the transport shuttle and onto the broken ground of Galrin 4. Dust swirled around his boots as wind howled across the ruined colony. Once, this place had been home to thousands of humans and aliens. Now it was nothing more than ash wreckage and silence. Galrin 4 had been the center of a brutal war between humans and the insect-like Varelians. The fighting ended 3 years ago, but scars still covered the land. Most Varelians had either fled, died, or been taken prisoner. Mark was here as part of the peacekeeping force, cleaning up old tech, helping find survivors, and making sure no hidden threats remained. "Scan this sector," said Captain Yarrow. "Over the comes. Make it quick." Out. "We're pulling out in 2 hours." Mark nodded, though no one could see him. He walked alone into a half-destroyed structure. The roof had caved in, and cracked metal beams stuck out like broken bones. His visor scanned for energy signals, life signs, or movement, but there was nothing. He moved deeper into the building, past scorched walls and shattered machines. This had once been a Varelian research facility, before human bombers flattened. Mark's HUD flickered a weak energy reading below him. "It's very faint, almost like a low battery, huh?" he muttered. "What do we have here?" He found a hatch under some debris. It was half buried and sealed tight, but not damaged. With effort, he pried it open. The metal groaned, but finally gave way. A narrow ladder dropped into darkness without hesitating. Mark climbed down. The lower chamber was cold and quiet. The lights were dead, but his suit's lamp lit the room in pale blue. Broken furniture, old crates, and some strange Varelian tools lay scattered around. Then he heard a soft sound, like breathing. He turned, raising his rifle. In the corner of the room, behind a half-collapsed wall, something moved. He stepped closer, slow and careful. The breathing grew faster. "Hello?" he called out. "Is someone there?" No answer. Just a faint whimper. He aimed his lamp into the gap. There, curled up behind debris, was a young Varelian girl. She looked maybe 6 or 7 by human standards, though it was hard to tell with aliens. Her skin was pale silver, her limbs thin and delicate, and her eyes large and glowing, faint green in the dark. She wore a torn brown robe and held something tightly in her small hands. Mark lowered his weapon. "It's okay," he said gently. "I won't hurt you." The girl didn't move. She just stared at him, eyes wide with fear. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Mark knelt down, placing his rifle on the ground. "I'm a soldier," he said. "Human, yes. Not now." The girl didn't speak, but her grip tightened on the small object in her hands. Mark leaned closer. It was a pendant, told, rusted, but still glowing slightly. Something was etched on it. Alien letters. Mark's translator couldn't read it. He frowned. "Where are your parents?" he asked. No reply. Her lip trembled. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head once. Mark slowly reached into his pack and pulled out a ration bar. He unwrapped it and placed it on the floor between them. The girl sniffed the air, unsure. "It's food," Mark said. "You can have it."
Atch!
After a moment, the girl inched forward. She grabbed the bar and pulled back quickly, like a scared animal. But she began eating fast, like she hadn't tasted real food in weeks. Mark watched in silence. His heart ached. She's just a child, he thought, alone in this wasteland, left behind by war. When she finished, she looked up at him, her eyes no longer filled with fear but curiosity. Mark gave her a small smile. "I'm Mark," he said. "Mark Talon." She didn't reply, but she gently tapped her chest. "Luma," she whispered. Mark nodded. "Luma, that's a nice name." Mark carried her back to the shuttle just before sunset. She rode in his arms, her head resting against his armor. She didn't speak again, but she didn't resist either. At the base, other soldiers stared as Mark brought her in, some raised eyebrows. Others whispered, "You found a Varelian?" asked Captain Yarrow. "Yes, sir," Mark said. "A child. She was hiding underground." "Looks like she's been there a long time," Yarrow frowned. "That's a problem. Protocol says we send her to refugee control. Let the brass decide what to do." Mark's face stayed calm, but inside he was angry. He knew what happened to aliens sent to those places, especially Varelians. Long waits, harsh treatment, endless questioning. She's not dangerous, Mark said firmly. Just scared and alone. Still not your call, Yarrow said. Tag her, report it, then move on. That night, Mark sat alone in the barracks. With Luma beside him, she had taken his blanket and curled into it like it was the safest place in the galaxy. He looked again at her pendant. He scanned it, using his wrist console, trying to decode the writing. After a few tries, a result popped up. Child of Vienna, property of Lifebond Research. Vienna. The name rang a bell. A Varelian scientist. Captured during the war. Reported dead, but no body was ever found. Could she be Luma's mother? Mark looked at the girl. She was watching him now, her glowing eyes calm and focused. It's like she understood something. You're not just any lost kid, are you? He whispered. You're someone important. Luma touched her pendant and held it out to him. He took it. Something strange happened, his mind filled with images, flashes of memories. A woman tall, silver-skinned like Luma being taken away by humans in armor. The girl crying out as doors slammed shut. Darkness, loneliness. Then, hope. A figure in light armor with kind eyes. Mark gasped, stepping back. Luma pulled the pendant back and hugged it tightly. Was that from you? He asked. She nodded slowly. Mark didn't sleep. That night he knew what he had to do. He would find her mother. Somehow, no matter where she was. But first, he had to get Luma off this planet. Away from the system. Away from military control. He opened his terminal and began creating a false report. No survivors found. Facility was empty. Power cells drained. Mission complete. Then he forged a travel request to transfer to a medical station on the outer rim. It was risky. Illegal even, but Mark didn't care. He looked down at Luma, now sleeping beside him. She's not a threat, he whispered. She's a child, and she deserves to see her mother again. Outside, the stars above Galrin 4 shined cold and distant. Inside, the barracks. One human soldier quietly began the mission that would change many lives, starting with one small girl and a forgotten mother, lost to war. Sergeant Mark Talon sat quietly in the back of the cargo ship, holding a data pad in one hand and watching Luma sleep beside him. The ship was heading away from Galrin 4 and toward a neutral outpost near the border, a place where rules were. Lucerin's eyes didn't watch so closely. He had taken a big risk. He lied in his mission report. He faked orders. He smuggled a young alien girl aboard a human military shuttle. If anyone found out, he would lose everything: his rank, his freedom, maybe even his life. But Mark didn't care. Luma wasn't a threat. She was a child. And he had seen her memories of fear, loss, and love. She had a mother. A mother who might still be alive. Mark had to find her. The shuttle landed on Station Greyfall, quiet spaceport orbiting a dead planet. It was filled with traitors, engineers, and former soldiers trying to forget the war. No one asked questions if you paid in credits and didn't cause trouble. Mark rented a small room in a corner sector. It wasn't much, just 2 beds, a desk, and a screen, but it was warm, and it was safe. Luma explored the room slowly, touching the walls and blinking at the lights. She seemed calmer now, less afraid. Mark gave her another ration bar. She took it with a smile. Tomorrow, he said, we try to find your mother. Luma tilted her head. Mark pointed at her pendant. Your mother? She might be alive. At the sound of the name, Luma closed her eyes and nodded once. She remembered the next day. Mark went to a quiet part of the station, a small data vault run by an old friend. Kara Miles, a former intelligence officer. Kara raised an eyebrow when she saw him. Mark Talon, she said. Last time we met, you were covered in blood and yelling at a general. I'm still yelling at generals, Mark said with a smile. But today I need your brain. Kara led him into the back, past rows of dusty consoles. What are you looking for? She asked. Mark showed her the image of the pendant, the alien writing. The name Dr. Vienna. Kara's expression changed. Where did you get this? She was a Varelian scientist, Mark said, captured during the war. But I think she's still alive. Kara frowned. I remember her. Smart, peaceful, worked in xenobiology. She was taken by Black Star Division. Very secret. You know where they kept her? Kara hesitated. That's deep stuff, Mark. Not just classified buried. Even if she's alive, finding her won't be easy. Mark leaned forward. I'm not asking for a report, just a direction. Kara sighed and pulled up her old access codes. She tapped the screen, cross-referencing files. Okay, ... here. Last. Known entry on Dr. Viana was 10 years ago. Transferred to a research lab in Orbit 7, near the red dwarf Carian. But after that, no records. Wiped clean. Then that's where I'm going, Mark, said. Kara looked at him carefully. You sure about this? Helping one alien kid is one thing. Going after a hidden lab is something else. Mark didn't blink. She's not just an alien. She's a daughter. And I gave her my word. Kara nodded slowly. Then you'll need help. Luma sat on the floor, playing with a tiny music chip Mark had given her. It made soft notes, almost like a lullaby. When Mark entered, she looked up with bright eyes. I found something, he said. We're going to Carian. I think your mother is there. Luma's face lit up with hope. She didn't speak, but her feelings came through clearly. Mark could feel them: warmth, joy, fear, excitement. She hugged him tightly. Mark froze for a second, then gently returned the hug. They booked passage on a small freighter headed toward the Red Dwarf. It was a cargo ship filled with crates and run by an old alien pilot who didn't ask questions. Mark paid extra to stay quiet. The journey took 3 days. During that time, Luma slowly learned to speak more human words. She called Mark Tolan, and sometimes Huma. She liked to sit near him, watching everything he did, curious about tools, screens, and the stars outside the window. The second night, she touched his hand and closed her eyes. Mark suddenly saw another memory, a soft vision, not forced, just shared gently. A memory of a tall, silver-skinned woman, Viana holding baby Luma, singing to her in soft tones. The memory filled Mark's heart with warmth, then sorrow, as it ended with screaming and soldiers pulling them apart. Mark opened his eyes, breathing hard. You miss her, he said quietly. Luma nodded. I'll find her, he promised. When? They arrived near the Carian system. The pilot warned them. There's a station orbiting the third moon, he said. Tight security, military markings. You're not getting in with a handshake. Mark nodded. I'm not planning to knock. On the door. He had a plan. Kara had given him a contact TAN engineer who once worked inside the facility and now ran a repair shop nearby. Drexel, a half-human, silicon lifeform with wires in his face and a sharp tongue. They found him in a smuggler's market. You want to sneak into Orbit 7? Drexel laughed. You must be either mad or desperate. Maybe both. Mark said. Can you help? Drexel frowned. Security's tight. The only way in is through a supply pod. I can get you one. But if they catch you, don't expect a rescue. I'm not looking for rescue, Mark said. I just need to get to one person. Drexel shrugged. Your funeral? But Shari'll make it happen. 2 nights later, Mark and Luma climbed into a small pod hidden beneath crates of fake oxygen filters. There was barely enough room to breathe. Luma sat curled beside him, silent but calm. You ready? Mark asked. She nodded. The pod launched. As the stars spun outside the window, Mark held on to his courage. He was a soldier, trained for battle, but this was different. This was a mission of the heart. It's not war. Not orders, just one girl and her mother, and he wouldn't fail them. Inside the dark pod, Luma reached for his hand again. This time she didn't show a memory. Instead, she shared a feeling. Trust. Mark squeezed her hand gently. We're almost there, he said. Hold on, Luma. We're almost there. Far ahead, the shadow of Orbit 7 appeared in space, cold, silent, and full of secrets. But behind those walls, hope waited, and Mark Talon was coming for it. The small supply pod floated toward Orbit 7, hidden between cargo crates. It was silent, cold, and full of tension. Inside, Sergeant Mark Talon kept still. Beside him, the young alien girl Luma clutched his arm tightly. Outside the pod, the massive lab station loomed like a metal giant. Orbit 7 was built like a ring, spinning slowly above a red dwarf star. It had no name, no signs, no traffic, only secret lights and heavy defense systems. Mark's heart pounded. "Stay calm," he whispered to Luma. "We'll be inside soon." The pod shuddered as it locked into the station's lower docking bay. A green light blinked inside the chamber. Doors hissed open. They were in. Mark peeked through the crates. No guards. No cameras in sight. He helped Luma crawl out, and they stepped into a dim service hallway. The floor buzzed under their boots. Pipes lined the walls. The smell of metal and recycled air filled their noses. Mark checked a small scanner on his wrist. Kara's. "Map says her cell should be in the upper research wing," he muttered. "We'll need to climb 4 levels." Luma didn't speak, but her eyes glowed softly with courage. She reached for Mark's hand and squeezed it. He gave a small smile. "Let's go." They moved fast but quiet through the corridors. Most of the station was empty at this hour. Lights flickered above them, and strange humming sounds echoed through the walls. On the 2nd level, they almost got caught. 2 armed guards walked down the hallway ahead. Mark pushed Luma into a side room. Just in time, they hid behind storage tanks, not breathing. The guards passed by, talking about lunch and boring patrol duty. After they were gone, Luma looked up at Mark and smiled. "She was brave and in danger," Mark whispered. "You're doing great." Finally, they reached the upper wing. It was quiet too. Quiet. A single hallway stretched ahead, lined with glass cells. Inside each one was a Varelian. Most looked weak or asleep. Some were hooked to machines. Scientists walked by slowly, holding data pads, not speaking. Mark stepped forward. "Keep your hood up," he whispered to Luma. "Don't let them see your face." They passed cell after cell. Mark checked each ID tag. No, ... not her, not this one. And they stopped. Cell 2 for B name. Subject V9. Status. Active. Name. Dr. Viana. Mark leaned closer. Inside, a tall Varelian woman sat in silence. Her skin was faded, her eyes closed. Wires connected her to machines on the wall. She looked older, thinner, but even after all these years, her face held. "Strength," Luma gasped. Tears filled her eyes. Mark touched the glass. "Is this her?" he whispered. Luma nodded slowly. She pressed both hands against the glass. Suddenly, the woman inside opened her eyes. Her gaze locked onto Luma. For a long second, they didn't move. Then Vienna's eyes widened. Her hand rose and touched the glass from the inside. "Luma," she whispered. Her voice was soft, cracked from years of silence. "My child." Luma's hands began to glow. The glass vibrated. Mark stepped back. "Luma, what's happening?" The lights flickered. A wave of invisible energy pulsed through the hall. An alarm blared. Luma's emotion, hope, sadness, love was too strong to control. A loud crack filled the air. The glass shattered, but gently as if the cell had accepted her touch. Vienna stepped forward, dazed. Mark caught her before she could fall. "Dr. Vienna," he said. She looked at him, confused. Who are you?" Mark helped her sit. "Down. I'm Mark Talon. I found your daughter on Galrin 4. She survived. She led me here." Vienna turned to Luma, who now stood just a step away. Her small hands trembled. Then mother and daughter embraced. Tears rolled down Vienna's cheeks. She held Luma close, whispering in their alien language. Luma sobbed softly, but she smiled. After 8 years apart, they were together again. But the moment didn't last. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Guards. Many of them. "Time to move," Mark said. "They'll come armed." Vienna stood slowly. "I will not leave without the others," she said. Mark looked around. "Others," she nodded. "They are prisoners too. Scientists, children, like me. They were never enemies, just captives. Mark cursed under his breath. This mission was about to get a lot harder. He tapped his wrist and pulled up Kara's hack code. He uploaded it into the door control. Okay, he said. Let's open every door. The next few minutes were chaos. Cells opened across the hall. Confused aliens stepped out, weak but free. Alarms screamed louder. Lights turned red. Mark led the way toward the emergency escape bay, guiding the aliens through back routes. But then, a blast shook the corridor. Smoke filled the air. A squad of soldiers blocked the main path. Halt, one shouted. Step away from the prisoners. Mark raised his hands. They're not prisoners anymore, he said. They're free. Soldier aimed his weapon. Before he could fire, Luma stepped forward. Her eyes glowed bright green. Her hands pulsed with power. She let out a small cry, not angry, but firm. A wave of energy flew from her body and hit the soldiers like wind. They fell backward, weapons knocked from their hands. Viana gasped. Her power. It's awake. Mark stared in shock. How did she do that? She's gifted, Viana whispered. My daughter was born in war, but her heart is peace. They reached the escape hangar. Drexel's shuttle waited nearby, hidden behind metal crates. Mark helped the freed aliens aboard. There were over 30 of them now. Viana sat with Luma, holding her tight. Mark took the pilot's seat. Hold on, he shouted. We're getting out of here. The ship launched from Orbit 7, dodging blaster fire. The sky turned red as the station's defense systems fired, but Mark was fast. They punched into hyperspace seconds before being hit. The stars stretched into light. They were free. Hours later, the ship floated silently in safe space. Mark sat. In the cockpit, exhausted but alive, Viana entered, holding Luma's hand. You risked everything, she said softly. For a child not your own? Mark looked at Luma, then smiled. She's not just a child, he said. She's hope. Viana placed her hand on his shoulder. Thank you, human. Luma climbed into his lap and rested her head against him. Mark closed his eyes. The war had taken so much. But now, something had been returned. Not a weapon, not a victory, but a family. And that was worth everything. The small ship drifted silently through deep space. After escaping Orbit 7, Mark Talon kept the engines low and avoided all known routes. The shuttle was full of tired, frightened aliens. But in the corner, one mother and daughter sat together, holding hands. Whispering in their native tongue, Mark watched them quietly from the cockpit. He still couldn't believe it. He had found Luma's mother, Dr. Viana, was alive. They had escaped the station, but they were not safe yet. Mark checked the screens. Again, a red light blinked. Trouble, he muttered. We've got a signal on our trail. From the back of the ship, Drexel, the half-silicon engineer, walked in. His metal eye blinked red. I picked up a trace too, Drexel said. Looks like a military scout ship. Maybe more coming. Mark cursed under his breath. They must have tracked us from Orbit 7. We can't outrun them in this old shuttle, Drexel said. She's fast enough for a freight run, but not a chase. Then we need to hide. Drexel tapped the map screen. There's an asteroid belt not far. Some old mining stations there. Dead zones. We might lose them in the rocks. Mark nodded. Plot a course, I'll tell Viana. In the back of the ship, Viana was checking the other rescued aliens. She used soft words and gentle hands. Her voice calmed them. Many of them had not spoken in years. They trusted her. Luma followed her mother everywhere, her tiny fingers always touching the edge of her mother's robe. She smiled more now. She laughed softly when her mother sang to her. When Mark entered, Viana looked up. You saw something, she said. We've got a ship on our trail, Mark replied. Probably Black Star Command. They're angry we broke into Orbit 7. We're heading for cover? Viana's face remained calm, but her eyes were tired. How far can we run, Mark? She asked. They will never stop hunting us. Mark paused. Then maybe it's time we stop running. They entered the asteroid belt an hour later, huge. Rocks floated in darkness. Some were miles wide, others like floating gravel. The ship moved between them carefully, hiding from scanners. Mark parked the shuttle inside an old mining station carved into a hollow asteroid. It had no power, no life, but thick metal walls to block signals. "We'll stay here for now." Mark told everyone, let them pass by. The others nodded. Most sat quietly, trying to rest. Some still didn't believe they were free. That night, Mark sat with Viana and Luma in the engine room. A small lantern glowed between them. "I never thought I'd see her again," Fiona whispered, looking at Luma. "Every day in that lab." "I thought she had died on Galrinfor." "She nearly did," Mark said. "She was alone, starving, hiding underground. She showed me her memories through the pendant. That's how I found you." Vienna looked down at the pendant around her daughter's neck. Her voice trembled. "That pendant was my promise to her, that one day I'd return." Luma curled up beside her mother and fell asleep, her little head resting on Vienna's lap. Mark leaned back. "She's strong," he said. "She saved us. She knocked out soldiers without even touching them." Vienna nodded. "She was born with rare energy, emotional, spiritual, deep power. Our people call it soul light." "Is it dangerous?" "No," Vienna said gently. "But humans fear what they don't understand." Suddenly a loud sound echoed through the station. A deep thud. Mark jumped to his feet. "Stay with her," he said, grabbing his rifle. "I'll check it out." He ran through the narrow metal halls, Drexel close behind. They reached the entrance bay. The airlock had been forced open. "Someone found us," Drexel hissed. Mark peeked through the crack in the door. A human soldier in black armor walked through the broken gate. Behind him were two more. All wore the Black Star logo on their chests. "We're not safe anymore," Mark muttered. "We have to move." But it was too late. The soldiers moved fast. Mark shot first, stunning the lead soldier. EMP grenade that knocked down the lights. Alarms flashed red. The mining station shook from impact. Vienna gathered the rescued aliens and led them toward the ship. Luma stood frozen, her body glowing faintly. One of the soldiers aimed his rifle. At Fiona, "Don't move." Mark ran between them. "No," he shouted. The soldier fired. But before the shot could reach them, Luma screamed. Her eyes blazed green. Her small body exploded with a wave of energy. The force hit all the soldiers at once, lifting them off the ground and slamming them against the walls. The guns flew out of their hands. Silence followed. Luma fell to her knees. Breathing hard, Mark caught her before she collapsed. Vienna rushed over. "She used too much power," she said, holding Luma close. She's not trained." For this, Mark helped them up. "We need to go now." They rushed back into the shuttle and took off fast. The engines roared as they left the asteroid behind. Mark looked. It's back one last time. Another battle survived, but peace still felt far away the next day. Mark sent a secret message to Kara Miles, the data officer who had helped him earlier. He told her everything. Vienna was alive. The Black Star program was still running illegal alien labs. Child Luma had powers never seen before. Kara replied quickly. "This is bigger than you think," she warned. "I'll start sending the truth out. Let the public hear it." "Thank you," Mark replied. "It's time people know." The next few days were quiet. They traveled to an outer world called New Heloza, neutral zone, with no government ties. Refugees often settled there. Vienna and the others could be safe for a while. When they landed, local people welcomed them with food and warm clothes. Mark watched Vienna lead the rescued aliens down the ramp. They were free now. They could choose new lives. Luma held Mark's hand. "Huma," she said softly. "You stay?" Mark looked at her, surprised. Vienna stepped forward. "She wants you with us." "I don't know if I belong here," Mark said. "You gave her hope," Vienna said. "To her, that makes you family." Mark knelt down and looked into Luma's glowing eyes. "Then I'll stay, as long as you need me." Luma smiled and hugged him tightly. Later that evening, the three of them sat outside watching the twin suns set. Vienna looked at the sky. "Do you think they'll come for us again?" she asked. Mark nodded. Probably. Then what do we do? Mark smiled. We fight, but not with guns. With truth, with hope, with Luma's story. Fiona smiled too. Then we begin again. In the calm breeze of New Helos, peace finally touched them. For the first time in years, a mother held her daughter under open sky, and a human soldier sat beside them, not as a warrior, but as part of their home. 2 suns rose over New Helos, lighting up the dry plains and rocky cliffs. The air was cool, and a soft wind blew through the village. Sergeant Mark Talon stood on a small hill, watching the people below. Italian refugees, traders, settlers, humans, and non-humans worked side by side. Planting crops and building homes, he took a deep breath. For the first time in years, he felt something simple and rare. Peace. Behind him, footsteps approached. Early again, said Vienna, stepping beside him. Mark smiled. Old habit. Soldiers wake up before the sun. She looked out at the land. It's a good place. Luma sleeps better here. Mark nodded. She deserves that. You both do.
Out in the village.
Luma ran through the fields, laughing with 2 alien children. Her pendant bounced on her chest. Her silver skin shimmered in the morning light. Every few days, her powers showed against small bursts of energy when she was happy, or glowing hands when she touched someone sad. But she was learning to control it, and most important, she was safe, back in the village square. A small crowd gathered. A woman stood in front of a screen speaking to the people. She had short brown hair, sharp eyes, and a firm voice. It was Kara Miles, Mark's old intelligence contact. She had come in person this time. I have sent the files to Earth's government, she said loudly. I've shown them the truth how Orbit 7 held alien prisoners, how Black Star ran secret labs, and how a child with natural powers was nearly destroyed. People murmured, some clapped. The humans who helped this escape, Sergeant Mark Talon, Dr. Vienna, and others did what no government would. They showed mercy. Mark stood at the back, watching silently. Then Kara raised her voice again. And now I present a message. From Earth's Assembly Council. The screen blinked. A human official appeared. His face looked tight and serious. To the citizens of New Helos, the message began, and to Dr. Vienna and Sergeant Mark Talon, we acknowledge the evidence presented. The Black Star program has been suspended. Our prisoners must be released. You are now under protected status by the Earth Assembly. Gasps spread across the crowd. Vienna stepped forward. Does this mean... Kara nodded. You're no longer fugitives. Cheers broke out. Luma jumped and clapped. Mark let out a slow breath. They had won. Not through war, but through truth. That night, celebration filled the village. Lights hung from the houses.
Oh, food was shared.
Songs were sung in many languages. Luma danced with the children. Fiona watched with shining eyes. Mark sat near a fire, talking with Kara. You did it, she said. You broke the system. Mark shook his head. Not me. It was Luma. It was Vina. I just helped them get home. Kara looked at him. What will you do now? Mark stared at the stars. I think I'll stay, he said. I want to. Build something, not just fight for once. Kara smiled. And maybe there's hope for the galaxy after all. Later, Luma came to sit beside Mark. She held a small gift in her hand, a glowing stone with a ribbon tied around it. For you, she said softly. Mark blinked. What's this? Memory stone, Luma said. You put feelings in it. Good ones. He smiled and accepted it. Thank you, little light. She leaned on his arm. You saved me, no, he whispered. You saved us all. Over the next few weeks, things began to change. The story of Luma and Vienna spread across human and alien worlds. News reports called it a miracle. Others, a new beginning. People demanded peace. More Varelians were released from hidden prisons. Some joined the villages. Some sent thanks. Even Earth's assembly sent aid to New Helos food, medicine, and supplies. Mark helped build schools and homes. He trained young guards not to fight, but to protect. And every evening, he watched the sunset with Luma and Vienna. One day, a small human girl arrived at the village with her father. She had no mother. She had been moved from 3 different colonies after the war. She was scared. Quiet. Luma walked up to her and touched her hand. The girl smiled. Mark watched them from afar. Maybe that's Luma's gift, he said to Vienna. She brings peace wherever she goes. Vienna nodded. She carries light in a dark galaxy. Mark looked down at the memory stone Luma had given him. He held it to his chest. Warmth filled him. Months passed. One morning, a large human ship landed nearby. An ambassador stepped out with guards and translators. They didn't come with guns. They came with an offer. Earth wishes to start a new council, the ambassador said. It's one where humans and Varelians speak as equals. We want Dr. Vienna to represent her people. Vienna was shocked. I am just a mother. The ambassador smiled. And a scientist. A survivor. A voice we trust. Vienna looked at Mark. What should I do? Mark smiled. Speak for them. For Luma. For the others who still wait to be heard. She nodded. I will go. 2 weeks later, she left for Earth. Luma stayed behind, too young to travel far. Mark promised to watch over her every night. They received a message from Vienna. She spoke in front of thousands. Her words were broadcast across planets. Her story opened hearts, and slowly. New treaties were signed. One evening, Luma asked Mark, "Do you miss the war?" He shook his head. I used to think war gave me purpose, but now I know. Peace is braver, she smiled. You're not just a soldier now. No, he said, I'm family. A year later, Vienna returned. The village threw another celebration. This time, it wasn't for escape or survival. It was for hope. As stars shined bright over new helos, Mark sat with his strange little family, an alien mother who had been lost to war, a daughter born from love and light, and a human soldier who found them. Again, not with orders, not with weapons, but with heart. And through that heart, a galaxy began to heal.